Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share something that is one of the most important lessons I've learned in life. How to write a research paper in less than 24 hours. I'm very fortunate that I had an advanced placement U.S. history class where I had a teacher who taught me how to write a research paper within 24 hours. As soon as he taught myself and my class about this lesson, he immediately told us that we had a research paper due the following Monday. Now, this was on a Thursday, and we were told that for every day that we were late, 10 points would be taken off our grade. And this was going to be a pretty big paper. We were required to write at least 10 pages, and we had to write in cursive. We couldn't type it. So it was quite the conundrum for me to go through. But these steps, though they are a little antiquated, will help you out, because if you take what I used to have to do and flip it into what you can do now, and I'll give you some examples later on, you'll find it's actually very easy to write a research paper, and you can do it with pretty much any length that's required of you. I'm in a master's program, and I just wrote a 15-page paper just a week or two ago, and it took me about 24 hours to do that. I want to share with you these methods. The first method, you have to know the topic of your paper. That should be pretty obvious. That's the first thing. If you don't know the topic of your paper, you're going to have to do a little research, obviously, to figure out some things. But step number 2 is to find 5 to 7 keywords. 5 to 7 keywords that deal with your research topic. Now, this is where it gets a little antiquated, but you can still roll with this. In the past, you take those keywords and you go to the library. Now, for you, in today's world, you probably go to Google or DuckDuckGo.com or even your school's online library. I know that my school has peer-reviewed journals and papers that you are encouraged and most of the time required to use in your papers when you get to the collegiate level, especially if you get to a master's level and beyond. So again, step number 1 is know your topic. Step number 2 is get some keywords and phrases that go along with your topic. So if you're doing this in a library, step number 3 is to go get all the books that have those keywords attached to them and take them and put them all on one desk. Take all of them out. And it could be that you have 10, 15, 20 of them. That's okay. The very next step, step number 4, is to look to see if there's an index in the back of the book. If there's an index in the back of the book, then you're going to take that one book and put it in a pile that's a pile of indexed books. If it doesn't, you put it in a pile that goes back to the shelf, because that's not going to do you any good. Now that's step number 4. Step number 5 is now to take every single one of those books that you put in the index pile and move it over now. Now hopefully you have 5 to 7, maybe even 10 of these resources. Step number 6 is to take little 3x5 cards. If you're doing this by book, take these 3x5 cards, and it's not a bad idea if you're doing this online, but I'll tell you how to do it differently. Take the 3x5 cards and shove every single place where there is one of your keywords in that book. Shove it in that page. You don't have to read it yet, just shove it in the page. Eventually, your book, instead of being closed like this, will eventually look like this, because you're going to shove so many 3x5s in there. But what that's going to do is going to make it so you don't have to read that whole book. You only read the pages that deal with your keywords. And once you have those keywords flagged, then we'll be able to do some stuff with that. Now, step number 7 is key. Once you've gone through number 6, where you put these index cards in every page where there's a keyword, number 7 is to go back and read just the pages, the 2 pages that you see. Read the pages that have the keyword on it. Now, you might have to go to the page before, you might have to go to the page after, but read the pages that have the keywords on them based on the index. Then, as you're reading them, take this 3x5 card and write down a quote. If you see a quote that you like, write it down. And what I want you to do is write down the quote down below, not up at the top. Start down below. Up at the top, you're going to write down whatever source that is. So let me show you. Part of step 7 is that you write down quotes from wherever you have their keyword. And if you do write down a quote from that book, because there are going to be some books where you're not going to write down a quote from it. You're just going to be like, this book is junk. You might read through 5 or 6 of the pages that have your keywords and you're like, don't need it, can't use it. And that's fine. That's okay. That's what this process is for. However, if you do find that you write down at least one quote, even if it's just one quote, you need to make a source card. Now, these source cards come from when I wrote a paper on the role of women in the World War II. So here's a source card. Here's a source card, source number 2. source number 3, source number 4, and source number 5. So I have 5 sources for this paper. Once you write down a quote, you need to write down a source card, because if you quote that in your paper, you need to put down in your works cited or your reference page who it is that you got that information from. Otherwise, you're plagiarizing, and that could fail you your class and boot you out of college. So don't plagiarize. Once you've gone through and you've read all the pages you're going to read and you've got all the quotes that you're going to get, you're going to take the cards of quotes and you're going to take your source cards. And here's what you're going to do. I want you to notice there at the top, see how it says 3.6? That 3.6 tells me that it came from the 3rd source, and it is my 6th card on that source, from that source. That's important. What you're going to do is you notice how I have my quote down here, and then I have the topic up here, need for women. I don't know if you can read that. So that paper says need for women workers after the war and the great help during the war. So that topic, that's the topic of this quote. I have another one here. Now these are ones that I didn't use. I didn't use for the paper. This one was quitting because of discrimination. Okay, so I have a quote in there that somebody quit because of discrimination. And when I was writing this paper, I wanted to show that it was both black women and white women who had put in the effort in World War II. So I know there are some issues with some of those things, and so I wanted to get some quotes for theirs. There's source number 4. This deals with a personal view from somebody about whatever was going on at the time. All right, so you take the cards, you put the source number up at the top, and then you put the keyword at the top as well. Once you have all of your source cards and all of your 3x5 cards that match the same source, so you source 1 with all the quote cards, source 2 with all the quote cards, source 3 with all the quote cards, then all the cards that have a similar subject, put them together. Put them all together. Okay, so if it's all about the contribution of women to the war effort, that goes in 1, right? If it's the discrimination against women from men in the workforce, that goes in another paragraph. Because when you write a paper, you want to talk about the for and against, the people for and against whatever topic it is that you have. You want to make sure that that is known. So let me show you some of the topics. I created these topic cards. So when you do this, you're actually making the outline for your paper. The first one I have is the intro, or the reason for joining the war effort. And you see down here below, I got a source from source number 1, number 3, and number 5. So I have 4 quotes I'm going to give during my introduction. Now, that doesn't have to be the very first paragraph. It just has to be within my introduction somewhere in the first page. Probably the 2nd paragraph, maybe even the 3rd. Because my introduction isn't just a paragraph, although some of you, when you're writing, could be just a paragraph. It's going to be however long it needs to be to introduce the topics that I need to explain throughout the paper. The next one was, what work was performed by women during the war? So first I'm going to talk about them joining the war. Then I'm going to talk about the work that they did while they were in the war. Then I'm going to have a paragraph just about what our black women citizens had done also in the war, because they were discriminated against in the 40s, and it's important to highlight the efforts that they did and the work they did for us. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you very much for your work there, of course. Hardworking and effectiveness of women working. So then we had the anti-war, anti-woman, women in war, because you got to show both sides of the story. And then my conclusion. So once I have those topic cards, then I take all of the cards that support each one of those topics, and then I put down the sources, right? There's a lot of comments about women not being in the effort in the war. So I take all those cards and I write them down. And then once you know what cards go with what topic, you put them in the order you want to use them. You haven't written a thing yet, but except for the quotes from the books. And now you've got the sources for the books, you've got the quotes from the experts, right? You've got all your keywords. You put all your cards in order for each topic, and then you get to write. And honestly, it's just that easy. Once you do that, you've already got all your quotes in the order that you want to use them. You can comment about the quotes as much as you want. You've read enough sources that you have a background on the subject matter, and then it's just a matter of editing your discussion. So now that you've outlined it, you type up your paper, put in whatever sources you did use, put it in your references, your parenthetical references. Make sure you're using the appropriate format for whatever you're required to for your class, and you're going to do just fine. So that's the old school way of going to the library to do it. So you know your topic, you pick your keywords, you go look for the books that have the indexes and put the cards in there. You read the pages that have your keywords, write down the quotes that you like, write down the source cards that go with them, put the cards together and put them in order and write your paper. And all 10 steps are in there. Now, in today's world, you'd go to whatever your search engine is, whatever your school's journal search is, and you search for those same keywords, and then you have a Word document for each one of your sources, and you just cut and paste underneath whatever source you used, and you put your source information, put the link, and then I use the website citethisforme.com, and it puts everything in the order that I need in whatever format I'm required to post. And then I have all my references ready. I can cut and paste my quotes in the order that I want them and type up whatever I need. And then I have a paper. And that's how I've written papers as much as 15 pages long typed in less than 24 hours. Guys, I hope this really helped you. If it did, please give me a thumbs up. And you can always say thank you. You can comment down below. I try to read every single thing that people post. And if you have any questions, any concerns, please fill it out. If you have other tips, put it down below. I'd love to hear them. And until next time, don't forget to subscribe.